Karen's voice sliced through the airport terminal like a chainsaw through butter, her self-proclaimed fame a weapon she wielded with all the grace of a toddler in a tantrum. By the time her meltdown hit its peak, the entire gate was her stage and her audience wasn't clapping. It was a muggy evening at LaGuardia, the kind where the air clings to your skin and patience runs thinner than the overpriced coffee. Gate 23 was already a pressure cooker, delayed flights, cranky toddlers, and a Wi-Fi signal that flickered like a dying star. Amid the chaos, Karen strutted in, her floral dress screaming for attention, her oversized sunglasses perched atop her head like a crown. She was a walking caricature of entitlement, her every step radiating the smug assurance that the world owed her a first-class seat literally and figuratively. Karen wasn't alone. Her sister, Darlene, trailed behind, a slightly less garish version of the same attitude, clutching a phone and filming every move like they were starring in a reality show no one had signed up for. "This is for my followers," Darlene announced to no one in particular, her voice dripping with the kind of self-importance that made strangers cringe. Karen, meanwhile, was already locking horns with the gate agent, a young woman named Maya whose professionalism was holding on by a thread. "You don't understand," Karen bellowed, her chins wobbling as she leaned over the counter. "I'm Karen K. You've seen me online. I'm too famous for this garbage seat in economy." Her finger jabbed at a boarding pass as if it had personally insulted her. Maya, barely concealing her exhaustion, explained for the third time that the flight was overbooked and first-class upgrades were unavailable. Karen's response? A laugh so loud and mocking it turned heads across the terminal. "Honey, I don't do economy. Fix it, or you're done." The elderly man beside me, Mr. Thompson, shifted uncomfortably in his seat, clutching his worn briefcase. He'd been quietly reading a dog-eared novel until Karen's outburst shattered the peace. "Some people," he muttered, shaking his head. Across the aisle, a young woman named Lila, who'd been scrolling on her phone, looked up with a mix of amusement and irritation. "Is she for real?" Lila whispered to me, her eyes wide. I nodded, already sensing this was about to spiral into something unforgettable. Darlene, ever the enabler, egged Karen on, her phone still recording. "Tell her, sis. They can't treat a star like this." Karen, emboldened, slapped her hand on the counter. "I have over 10,000 followers on Insta. I'm practically a public figure. You're embarrassing yourself by making me sit with the commoners." The irony was thicker than the humidity. Karen's fame was a patchwork of poorly lit selfies and rants about customer service, yet she wielded it like an Oscar. Maya's comm began to crack. "Ma'am, I've explained the situation. If you'd like to board, your seat is 27B. If not, I can call security." The word security was like gasoline on Karen's fire. Her face turned a shade of red that rivaled her lipstick. "Security? Security? Do you know who I am? I'll have your job by tomorrow." Darlene, still filming, zoomed in on Maya's name tag, narrating like a low-budget documentarian. "This is what happens when you disrespect a queen." The terminal was now a theater, and every passenger was an unwilling spectator. Mr. Thompson closed his book, his patience officially gone. Lila, bolder than most, stood up and called out, "Lady, you're holding up the whole flight. Sit down or get out." A few others murmured agreement, but Karen spun around, her eyes narrowing. "Mind your business, little girl," she snapped at Lila, who didn't flinch. "I'm not the one making a scene for clout." The tension was electric, a live wire sparking in every direction. Karen's meltdown was no longer just about a seat, it was a power trip, a desperate grasp to prove she was above everyone else. Darlene, sensing the moment was going viral, kept filming, oblivious to the security officer now weaving through the crowd. Officer Ramirez, a no-nonsense man with a walk that said he'd seen it all, approached with a hand on his radio. "Ma'am," he said firmly, addressing Karen, "you need to lower your voice and step away from the counter." Karen's reaction was predictable. "Don't you dare touch me," she shrieked, swatting at the air as if Ramirez had lunged at her. He hadn't. Darlene, still playing director, gasped dramatically. Police brutality. I'm getting this all on video. The absurdity was almost comedic, but the stakes were climbing. Maya, now flanked by her supervisor, repeated that Karen could board or leave, but the threats had gone too far. What happened next was the kind of slow-motion chaos you replay in your mind for years. Karen, refusing to back down, grabbed her boarding pass and tore it to pieces, flinging the scraps at Maya. "I'm not going anywhere until I get what I deserve," she roared. The terminal fell silent, save for the hum of an overhead announcement. Even Darlene lowered her phone, sensing the line had been crossed. Ramirez stepped forward, his voice low but unyielding. "Ma'am, you're causing a disturbance. You need to come with me." Karen's bravado crumbled, replaced by a mix of panic and defiance. "You can't arrest me. I'm famous," she wailed, but Ramirez was already guiding her away, his grip firm but professional. Darlene, suddenly less enthusiastic about her documentary, scrambled to follow, shouting about lawsuits and free speech. The crowd erupted in whispers, some snapping photos, others shaking their heads. Lila, grinning, muttered, "Karma's faster than this flight." As Karen and Darlene were escorted through the terminal, the weight of their actions began to sink in. Karen's fame hadn't saved her, it had amplified her downfall. The boarding pass scraps lay scattered on the floor, one piece catching my eye. In bold, messy handwriting, someone, maybe Maya, maybe a fed-up passenger, had scrawled, "Karen's fame fiasco ends in cuffs." It was the perfect headline for a story no one would forget. By the time boarding resumed, the terminal felt lighter, like a storm had passed. Mr. Thompson reopened his book, a faint smile on his face. Lila, still buzzing from her clapback, posted a quick recap on her phone, tagging it Karen Meltdown. Maya, though shaken, handled the rest of the process with quiet dignity, earning a few nods of respect from the crowd. The flight took off an hour late, but the real delay was Karen's reckoning. In the days that followed, clips of the meltdown surfaced online, shared and reshared until Karen's fame became a punchline. Her followers dwindled, her rants drowned out by the internet's merciless mockery. Darlene's video, meant to glorify her sister, instead became evidence in a minor charge of public disturbance. Karen's empire of entitlement, built on shaky ground, collapsed under the weight of her own hubris. The lesson wasn't just about Karen's fall, it was about the quiet strength of people like Maya, who held their ground, and Lila, who spoke up when it mattered. It was about the Mr. Thompsons of the world, who endured chaos with grace, and the countless others who refused to bow to a bully's tantrum. Fame, real or imagined, means nothing when it's used as a weapon. Respect, on the other hand, is the currency that holds a crowded terminale or a crowded world together. The end.